Welcome to Two Guys Whining About Retirement. It's the only show where you can get a wine review and great financial advice at the same time. I'm Troy Frazier, your financial advisor, and joining me today, as always, my friend and co-host, Bryan Rose, and wine aficionado. That's the most important part of that, right?
Thanks for recognizing that, Troy. I appreciate it. Accolades not due, but I appreciate it anyway. Yep. Glad to be here as always. Let's hit it.
We're still in January. Happy New Year. I've got to get that in, right?
Happy New Year.
So this is our third edition into, look, it's the beginning of the year. People are into planning. They're into making those resolutions, goal setting. Mm-hmm. So we're going over our 5-step retirement planning process called the Fearless Retirement Roadmap. And this process will basically take you from where you are to a secure retirement. And so Bryan is actually going through that right now with us. And so this is kind of helping him and you guys at the same time. In this episode, we're on the final installment, which is going to be estate and legacy planning, okay? And this is where we're going to ensure that you have all the right documents in place and that they are being taken care of appropriately, okay? So, but before we get into that, we got to do the important part, which is the wine. And so what have you brought with us today?
So today we've got a blend. It's a BV Tapestry. So it's a Bordeaux blend, Cab Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec, and Cab Franc. It's a $55 bottle of wine, aged 2016. 93 points from James Suckling. You get nice fruit definition, blueberries, blackberry aroma. Little bit of toasted oak. It's very creamy. It's very smooth.
I don't know who this James guy is, but he's right on target.
Yeah, it's very creamy. It's balanced. You get a little bit of chocolate and hazelnut.
Man, yeah, I can really... I like that. The last higher end bottle we had, I wasn't real. Mm-hmm. This is really good.
It's worth it.
This is really good. Yeah,
it's worth it.
So I don't want to give away my. I'll have to have a. I'm gonna have to take a few more sips before I
open a little bit more. But it's a good bottle.
Perfect. So let's do that, and we'll sip on a little bit. Talk.
For sure.
Let's talk about this estate planning and legacy. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that. None of us really. I mean, think about us, right? We're in our. Right. You're 50, right? You're at least 50. No,
almost.
Not there.
Almost.
I'm 54. I don't know. I'm like
we can round
close
up.
to the same. Okay. Maybe not. I got a few years on you then. I mean, we really don't think about we're going to die tomorrow or those types of things. But people have heart attacks. People are in car wrecks. Things happen.
Right.
And not having the proper will or trust in place can really be
damaging to your heirs and your estate. Like, I mean, right. Prince, he died at 57?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So when we take a look at, I think we were just talking about that earlier. Yeah. So Prince, Purple Rain, the singer, love the guy put on a great show.
Fantastic showman.
So he died April 2016. He was 57. He was worth an estimated over $3 million.
300?
$300 million. Yep. And he did not have a will. Yep.
Wow.
So you would think that they've got it all together. He's got all the money in the world, all these great advisors around him. He did not have a will. So now a judge in Minnesota is deciding how to distribute that estate.
A judge gets to decide $300 million.
There's all kinds of people popping up out of the woodwork now that say they're related to him. There's actually a federal inmate that is claiming to be his son. But the judge in Minnesota will decide and has the final rule over $300 million. I think maybe the judge may be a long-distance relative, right?
Might be worth the DNA test.
That's right. Absolutely. Right. So, I mean, even it doesn't matter how much money you have, those things. And I'll go through the 13 most, I can't memorize all these, so I'm going to be reading down my list here. But it's what we would see as probably the 13 biggest mistakes people make with the will and trust and the planning. And the first one is they just fail to plan. They don't do it, like Prince that we just talked about, right? They probably, he's 57. But
it doesn't matter. You don't have to have $300 million or
That's
$10 million. You need a plan.
But his thing was, he's 57. Why would he be worried about all of that? And at that, with all your advisors around you, why weren't they having you do a will and a trust, right?
know,
So then it's not discussing it with family and friends. So, people that you have named in there, the executors, those things, you want to share those things and where they're located. And, otherwise it becomes this mass problem. And look, if you've got things, I've seen this be a big issue. Husband dies, wife comes in and goes, Troy, everything was in his laptop or on the computer or is in digital type assets, and I don't know his passwords.
I would say that that's my current situation today.
They don't know the passwords. Yeah. He didn't write them down anywhere. He didn't share them. He didn't write them and put them in a safety deposit box. And how many times? I mean, I just think about all the passwords I have.
You have to change them every 90 days
That's what
anyway.
I was going to say, right?
So,
what are you going to do to your strong box at the bank and change it every 90 days? Yeah. So you've got to make sure that those kinds of things are written down. You update them when they happen, that sort of thing. The other one is just naming one beneficiary. So think about this. You name the beneficiary. You're in a car with that beneficiary. You have a wreck. You both die. The state's going to decide how that money's going. There's the beneficiary, you only named one. You've got to dig deep and find those other beneficiaries in there. It's one of the hardest things to do. The other one is really
and nobody wants to talk about dying. I mean, like you mentioned, you don't want to contemplate your own mortality.
Well,
but it makes financial sense if you want, all your hard work, if you have children, you want them to benefit from it, change their lives,
right?
But you definitely want to consider that.
Absolutely. And I work mainly in that retired space with individuals and retiring them. And, they're getting close to the mortality. And usually the guys, we're okay facing it, say we die. We want to make sure she's taken care of. Sure. The kids are, the family, those things. But then they never want to talk about it. It's kind of like taboo. She doesn't want to even think about him dying and having that conversation. But I'm telling you, not having that conversation, when it's your day, it's your day. You need to have power of attorneys, those things in place, because who's going to take care? Who has the power of attorney for financials? Right. Who has the health directive that can make the decision to pull the plug or can I get that surgery when I'm incapacitated? Right. One of the things also with younger clients, kid turns 18, goes off to college. We're both facing this, right? Mm-hmm. They need to have a health directive. At least, not a will or power, but they need to have a health directive, power of attorney directive. Now, because the kid, once they're 18, they get in a wreck and they're in the hospital, they're a parent, they're an adult.
I hadn't thought about that. Honestly,
I just blindsided
you. You blindsided me. Oh, my Lord.
I teed that one up and waited.
You did well.
So most people miss that.
Yeah.
So you've got now when they get married, those things, usually they're going to have their spouse be that person, right? But at that stage in life, between when they turn 18 to when they get married, they got to make sure that they have a will, power of attorney, the health directive in place, and have those parents named or whoever. Otherwise, then there's a problem there.
Yep.
So that's one thing too. So if you're on the younger side, that's the biggest thing that I see that I'm always advising people of.
Yep. And we did that, We got it dialed in, got the estate plan, did everything, and this was right around the time the kids were born. So everything was fluid, everything was ticked and tied, wife's in the hospital, the whole deal. We've got it all, but that's 17 years ago now.
Well, and that's on my list.
Is it on your list? Okay.
Updating your plan too infrequently. Because what's happened, what's changed since then is HIPAA laws, those kinds of things, and you got to update it to be current with those types of laws. So, having it taken a look at every 3 to 5 years just to make sure, look, your beneficiaries, all of those things, because there's life events, life changes. And that goes back, you name one beneficiary and they're no longer available, meaning they can't, then where does it go? Now the state's got to take care of it. Yep. Forgetting about final arrangements. You don't deal with what you want to happen in your final arrangements. Do I want to be cremated? Do I want to be buried, all of those types of things. Forgetting about your digital assets, we talked about that a little bit. But as crypto gets bigger and some of those things happen, you got to make sure those things are put in there because those digital assets are there. Not thinking about your children's future. I thought we had that taken care of, but not thinking about your children's future. And then sometimes getting too specific. Because if you get, and this is during your updates, if you get too specific, I want this kid to get this lamp,
Right.
and then you no longer own that lamp. You got to make sure that maybe you're not so specific on things, unless it's like I've got a client that they've got a child from a previous marriage, and they have this, I think it was a Corvette that really meant something to him, and he wanted that son that he doesn't see a whole lot, have a great he wanted to leave that Corvette, that vintage Corvette to him, and so we named that, it's called a bequest in the will that he's bequesting. Now he's going to have that for his whole life and around. So you just got to make sure that some things you're not getting too specific, unless it's something like that vintage Corvette, those types of things. And then forgetting about taxes. You got to remember the taxes. I think we go back to like stars, like movie stars, right? Sure. James Gandolfini. And if you don't know who James Gandolfini is, he was like the big boss on The Sopranos, right?
Always a cigar, glass of wine.
Yeah, as we drink our wine there, salute.
Salud.
So he was worth about $70 million. Died of a heart attack in 2013. He was, it doesn't say his age here. He was just walking down the street in Rome. I remember that day because I was a big Sopranos fan. I remember we were taking a trip in Rome and he died. Most of his family was taken care of in his will and his trust, but unfortunately, because he did poor tax planning in there, that $70 million got taxed at 55%. Wow. So more than half of his estate went to the government, and then the rest went to his heirs. So you've got to make sure you're doing that proper planning there. Not securing your estate plan. You've got to make sure that you've got it set up properly, that you funded it properly. And so we get into improper funding. So sometimes what will happen, you'll go to these attorneys.
Guilty.
Have you done that? Yeah, that trust that you've put up?
Yeah. I've got like one asset. I have a trust. 2004, I got like one asset in it.
Yeah,
so
see?
95% of my assets are not in the trust.
Right. You haven't, and that's what we call funding the trust.
Sure.
And so you want me to tell you who in the company, a very famous person,
Absolutely.
Michael Jackson.
Ooh.
So Michael Jackson had a trust of his $600 million estate, but unfortunately, he put 2 assets in it, nothing else, if anything. And so all that $600 million is now up to the court of where that's going to go and who's going to get that, because it was not in the trust. The trust was not funded. Okay. So if you got to do it, you got to make sure that it's funded. And a lot of times you'll go through the process. They'll put how to put your house in there, how to put your bank accounts. But you don't go that far to read that you've got to do it. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure, and reach out to the attorney if you need help in those things. Sure. But you got to make sure you put those assets in there. All right? Now, and so that's one of the biggest that I see is people just don't fund the trust, or they don't move forward and do a will or trust. Now, we've made it extremely affordable. People think they can't. They're like, oh, I don't want that trust because it costs too much. Now, in the state of Texas, we're actually very probate friendly. State of California, when I was there, if you had more than $200,000 pretty much, you needed a trust, because the probate is a percentage of your assets. Mm-hmm. Doing a $2,000 trust for a percentage of your assets, you got more than $200,000, it's worth doing it. Here in Texas, whether you have $10 million or you've got $100,000 or $50,000, probate's the same cost.
Oh, really?
So you got to be careful, because I've seen people out at seminars, things like that, trying to ding you for a $5,000-$6,000 trust, when really you could get by without a trust. But what we've done, because we've got clients all over the country, we work with a national firm, and for our clients, we actually do a will, power of attorneys, trust, the whole kit and caboodle for a husband and wife, for between $900 and $1,100.
Sold.
Out the door. Nice leather binder. And not only do you get the physical trust,
digital,
you get it all digital online. So if you're traveling or your executor's in another state, it's up there forever. Those types of things. So it's a great value. And look, even people that don't need a trust, that just need a will, because it's so inexpensive. Yep. Because with a will, with a trust, the one thing you're going to get with not a will you have to probate, so everything becomes public. The trust, it's not public, it goes private, and it's much easier from that standpoint. So I'm not an attorney. I just play one on TV. I always say I know enough to make me dangerous.
There you go.
But yeah, you want to make sure. So if you're looking for a will, a trust, do I need that? Do I need to get mine updated? Definitely email Samantha at FrazierWS.com and say, hey, I need a will and trust. And she's going to probably hand you over to Jennifer. She handles that. But if you're looking to bring all of your assets together, see how the pieces of the puzzle work, you want to go to www.myfearlessretirement.com. You're going to be able to see a few videos from me talking about our Fearless Retirement roadmap. And you're going to be able to go online there, sign up for a 30-minute consultation with me, no obligation, free of charge. And we're going to see if we're right for you, if we can help you in any way, no obligation for that. And there again, even the will and trust, definitely at least take us up on that offer and those types of things. Now, Brian, like I know you and I have been friends for a long time.
Sure.
We've known each other. You've been a do-it-yourselfer guy, Vanguard, those things.
Yep.
You've recently, within the last probably 6 months, I always call it come over to the dark side, right? You said, hey, I need some help here. I don't want to do it yourself anymore. Have you found value? And be honest, I'm not hurt. Have you found value in our meetings and those types of things and going through that?
I have, because I've, DIY, I mean, finance major, interned at Merrill Lynch, did all these things.
So you majored in finance, you interned at Merrill Lynch.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, interned at Merrill Lynch. And, just consume and think about financial planning, every day, every week of my life. And, I was doing all the right things that you should do to a point. And then I got family and career and a lot of things got in the way. And, I had a grandfather that kind of did his own thing, manages his own stock portfolios, things like that. I didn't have the time for that.
Right.
Right. And I hit a point and I realized that I didn't have, even with all my education and all the research that I had done, I learned how to accumulate but not unwind. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. And that scared me. And I've lived through two crises within the dot-com boom and the 2008 financial meltdown. And I have, I've lived enough life that I have a little bit more to lose next time that happens. So I want to be prepared. Yep. I don't want to be prepared for that. I want to be prepared for my children going to college. I want to have a comfortable retirement. I don't want to slave and toil for 30 years and not be able to do the things that I want to do, live the life that, that I want to live, that my wife wants to live, and with our kids and hopefully grandkids someday. Right. So all of that kind of came to the forefront over the last couple of years, and we've been talking, and I needed help. There was a lot that I did checkbox right, but it's the holistic thing, from soup to nuts that I just didn't get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's some little things in there. Look, you've done all the work. You make it easy for me because you've invested well. You've done some of those things. So it is easy for me to come in and do planning for folks like that. But it's the little tweaks and the nuances, the tax. Oh, I need to get my daughter a health directive and power of attorney. What is that worth to you, right? Yep. I mean, that's, your kids, your family is worth everything, right? And so those are the little things with experience. And we got a lot of that on the long-term care side, those things that we're able to bring to the table to people that's even done well on their own from that standpoint.
For sure.
All right, let's go to the wine. Let's not belabor this anymore. Let's go to the wine. What are you going to say, cork rating?
I love this wine. And I say that I've been drinking this wine, this particular blend, for the last 15, 16 years. They were great. It's fantastic. It's very well balanced. I would, it's a bit of a reach on price for where we've been, $55, $60.
Yeah, it's not something you're keeping on the table every day for dinner wine, right?
I would invest in a bottle and break it out for a special occasion.
All right, what's the cork rating on it?
I'm going 4.5.
I'm going to tell you, and I haven't done this, I really like this wine. And the more it's opened up, as I've said here, I'm actually going to give it a 5.
Wow.
Yes, I'm going to give it a 5. I've really enjoyed it and taken the sips here and those things. I think it's a great bottle of wine. That's what was the Suckling guy? What was his name? James.
James Suckling.
Yeah, James has got it going on with this one.
He's a fantastic. Yeah,
Perfect.
His reviews are fantastic. 93
great.
points from Suckling.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
And folks, again, if you're looking for some help, you're going to go to www.myfearlessretirement.com, and you're going to be able to line up an appointment with me. I'm going to be able to get on a 30-minute call with you. We're just going to go through some high-level things, see if we're right for each other, if I'm able to help you in some way, add value to your retirement, and then we can kind of go from there. Again, no obligation whatsoever. Make sure you follow and like us, and then you're going to get all of these. We got a lot of great topics this year coming into 2022, and we want you along for the ride with us, and hopefully we can help you get some nuggets along the way. Again, I'm Troy Frazier.
Bryan Rose.
Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you in the next Two Guys Whining About Retirement.
Cheers.